welcome to the Horror Show Podcast. I'm Cecil Laird.
I mean, Fuego here.
Tom McGinty.
Tom McGinty, and I'm producer Dave.
That's right, guys. We have another new voice on the podcast. We've had a few new voices recently, but while this is a new voice for the podcast, it's not actually a new voice for the show. Tom is one of the two gentlemen that actually co-created this awesome tabletop dice game called Dicenstein that we played on the channel a little while back, and actually the Kickstarter they were running got funded, and now the actual game is available. So we just did an unboxing of it on the channel. You can go and check that out by the time this podcast drops. But I did want to talk to Tom while he was here. He was kind enough to deliver the game to us, but he is a big horror fan. And it makes sense because Dicenstein is about mixing your own monsters, so to speak, and fighting other mixed monsters. And it was a hell of a good time, and we are extremely excited to play the full version of the game. But I thought it was a good opportunity to do the horror history of Tom, and let's jump right into it. So Tom, where does your infatuation or love or whatever you might describe it as for horror begin?
I think I was about 5. I was actually growing up down here in Arizona, and during the summer, every weekday, they would show terrible horror films. I can't remember on what channel it was, but it was things like Night of the Lupus, Kingdom of Spiders, just a whole bunch of the 60s and 70s, low budget. So, the Squirm was, they got away with it a little bit as far as primetime TV was concerned, but mixed between that and Godzilla on Saturdays, I was hooked from that point on.
Nice. So was it, what kind of things did you find yourself drawn to? Was it the monsters? Was it the ghosts? Was it the vampires, the werewolves?
Monsters, hands down. I don't like ghosts. I think ghosts are like magic. You kind of make your rules up as you go along. There's just...
True.
Especially, I think a good monster has lore, and finding out that lore is, I think, the most enjoyable thing. It's learning about something. A lot of horror films, like with ghosts and such, it's a mystery. It doesn't really bring something new. Generally, when you create a creature, you're creating a mythology, and I think that's the biggest thing that draws me.
What are some of the favorite ones that you've encountered over the years? He's wearing. He just looks down at his shirt, guys. Which,
I commented right when I saw him when he was here today.
Yeah, he's got a real badass Xenomorph shirt on. So if you guys are familiar with the little franchise called Alien or Aliens or what, I don't know. Would they be called? Would it be called the Alien or the Aliens franchise? Yeah, it's called David now. Yeah, now it's all David.
Yeah. And yet, I really liked Prometheus. I hated Covenant.
Covenant was
terrible.
I can't believe they wasted the mythology on that. I don't know what sort of relationship he has with Michael Fassbender. I don't think it's appropriate.
But it all goes back to his Blade Runner fascination with artificial intelligence, though. The guy just has been enamored with it for decades at this point, and I don't know.
I actually thought it was kind of cool.
I enjoyed it too.
Covenant?
I don't know why people...
I liked the concept that behind the really nasty aliens that we see in all the other films was a stupid... AI, well, not a stupid, but a crazy AI guy stuck on a planet for years and years and years who was doing experiments.
I thought that was a wasted origin.
Absolutely wasted origin, especially for a cosmic horror like the Alien. It was the personification of the fear of the void and what it contained.
Yeah.
And now it was like, no, we did it.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't.
Almost like
they
you
didn't
pull the
create.
curtain back and...
They didn't create the virus or whatever the life form. They just guided it. They sort of like bred it.
Yeah,
like we do with dogs, kind of.
Yeah, we're still responsible for the xenomorph.
It is. You're right. The whole point was the mysteriousness of it. It was a living vicious cancer that spread across the universe that no one knows the origins of, because it's literally just rocks containing these creatures are flung out across the universe. We don't know how or why, but that's how they seem to travel. Sometimes there's ships carrying the things, but we don't know if there's a single origin planet. I mean, those of us that read comics do know that there's an origin planet and stuff.
Lots of Dark Horse comics. But...
I love the Dark Horse stuff, and I'm enamored with the crossover with the Predators. Another one of my favorites. I don't know if I classify the Predator as horror. Really, I think he's more of an action monster.
More sci-fi.
Yeah, more sci-fi. But it's a great pairing. It's just like this thing is so badass that the most badass hunter.
I honestly think the first Predator movie is what excuses it in horror. because I think if anyone had just read the comics, it might not be looked at as horror, but they really played that first Predator movie like a horror movie. This thing was stalking and killing these guys. I thought that's how I mean, yeah, it was a really badass action movie because they could fight back, but it was at its core a stalker. I mean, it was a slasher. It was an alien slasher.
I'll give it. There were some parts to it, but I think it leaned more on the action film. It's just it's too quotable with the one-liners and the.
Well, that's why I liked
it.
I thought it was
like
a
Aliens.
nice blending.
I think Aliens is an action film as opposed to a horror film.
See, that hurts.
I think it's such a nice melding of both.
Yeah.
And I would probably say both for both the original and the second Aliens film.
Well,
balanced it very nicely.
Both action and horror are such broad genres. You know, it's hard sometimes to define a movie in a single broad genre. There's always a little bit of a blending because it's a little bit of sci-fi, even though it's a military action movie. It's more like a sci-fi.
Here's what
it's
I
like
think.
Rambo from space.
I think it's chicken or the egg. It's like, could this
is
this movie a horror movie with heavy action elements, or is it an action movie with heavy horror elements? And I think in both cases, both in Predator and in Aliens, I think even if they're not big action guys up against the thing, it would still be a good horror movie. So that's kind of why I think it could still be considered horror movies, because you could take out the action elements and it would still be interesting. I think an alien creature stalking a group of people through a jungle, or a group of alien creatures attacking whatever that people that just stumble across it. The movies wouldn't be as good. I'm not saying they'd be as good, but I'm saying at their core, I feel like they're more horror movies than action movies.
My difference is I think the action sets stick out larger for both of the films. I think those set pieces are more prominent in the forefront. I don't get me wrong. I do agree there are horror elements to it. I just think that the action is in the forefront and the most memorable.
That's fair. I mean, our guests can be wrong, so it's cool.
Well,
I'm just kidding. No, I'm kidding.
No, but I've used that same description even with something like the Evil Dead series, where the Evil Dead 2 for me is a horror movie with a lot of comedic elements, whereas I feel like Army of Darkness is a comedy with a lot of horror elements.
Yeah, that's actually.
So I mean, it's all how it's proportioned. I think.
Yeah,
so,
true. I absolutely agree with that.
Yeah.
Well, like Godzilla, what is Godzilla
It
action
depends on
or
the
is
film.
that? Yeah,
it absolutely depends on the film.
Because I think the latest one,
Shin Godzilla.
Shin Godzilla is definitely more horror.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Although I gotta say, why
So
did
slow.
it have to be like disco ball Godzilla at one point, where he like literally fires lasers out of every extremity at one point?
Well, that I think comes a lot into the director. Did you ever watch Neon Genesis Evangelion?
I've heard of it. No.
He's the same director, and he's got it fits very much into his visual style.
Okay.
Because Neon, if I can say it right, Neon Evangelion is about the apocalypse, and basically the angels are coming to wipe out humanity, and humanity's fighting back. So that's the primary storyline.
But still, it just felt real out of place for Godzilla to be able to do that all of a sudden, though. His look was amazing, though. I gotta say, I thought he looked pretty scary.
I thought it was fine. I think Godzilla is really an expression of the director, and they generally, because he's changed so many times throughout the years. He is very much, what the director wants him to be.
I guess that's very true, because Cloverfield is just another director's version of Godzilla.
Yeah,
without
JJ
calling it Godzilla.
essentially.
Like I don't know. That's a good way to see that. Because we were at Mad Monster, and they had all the old school, the 60s and 70s guys who were actually in the costumes. And I like the nostalgia of it, but I don't really enjoy.
No,
I can't sit through
the old
them.
stuff.
No, I love Man in Suit,
Yeah.
and I've got so many. I prefer the newer ones. They had like 2000 on, because they did a great job with the newer suits, and they mixed the CGI in with the practical effects. So when he does this blinding breath, it's got that great CGI look to it, but it's still the actual physicality of two things clashing together that you don't really get with CGI.
So what did you think of Gareth Edwards' Godzilla, and then Kong Skull Island also?
Kong Skull Island was great. I'm really looking forward to Godzilla 2 when Godzilla's actually in it.
Yeah, I was going to say.
We saw glimpses, though, just a little bit.
So, but does that make it more of a horror movie that he's not in it as much? Because like Jaws.
No, because he
Jaws,
wasn't.
like I'm just trying to think. Like when you put a creature in a film, does it automatically it's sort of like there's the creature is the horror aspect, or is the creature its own aspect?
Well, Godzilla wasn't the horror part for that, though. He was the hero. I mean, he just... So I don't really consider that. It was just their... I don't know what his original vision for that was, why he would keep, a living spectacle off camera for the majority of the film.
It was deliberately done.
I understand why. I understand it was deliberately done. I don't...
I think it was a poor choice.
That's what I'm saying.
I agree.
Yeah, I completely agree with you because, everyone's there to see him. And to me, they didn't even play on one of the scariest aspects of a Godzilla movie where it's just terror while these things are doing their thing. Like, shit's getting destroyed and you should be seeing people, like, facing dire things. Like, people, like, I don't know. I feel like it might be a little too much, but... I feel like there is a horror version of Godzilla out there where if it was like Eli Roth making it, where like building parts were like crushing people as they're trying to get away and things like that, and then their people are getting stepped on and clawed just as they're getting up and around.
The Roland Emmerich Dean Devlin one though, which as much as people
really
rail on that shit,
well, he like attacked choppers and things like that, which was good to see. But
he was more of a menace in that than he was in the Gareth Edwards, at least. And then the weird little babies that were like velociraptors eating people and stuff. It felt very reactionary to Jurassic Park in some ways, and I don't know.
A good kaiju
great soundtrack though
that actually does have some good horror elements to it is the last Gamera trilogy.
Really?
Absolutely. There is some very large devastation, and the villains for it are... Some of the scenes actually get fairly bloody.
Really? Because I've never seen any Gamera movies.
I highly recommend the Gamera trilogy.
The Gamera trilogy. Okay,
I'm trying to remember. That's not the turtle, is it?
It is the turtle.
Okay, that's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
But
so it's the evil things. Is he like the Godzilla? Is
he's the protector? He's the protector, but the evil things are pretty good. If you enjoy comedy, they actually do the second film, I think it is. They do the Texas Arcana Gamera, where they do like a dub over with a bunch of hicks. They're like, "Oh my God, it's a flying turtle."
Okay, I'm gonna have to check that out. The Gamera trilogy. Okay,
that's on disc, so it's one of the subs or one of the dubs that you can choose.
I feel like Cloverfield was the closest in getting that kind of feel. I mean, and possibly it had to do with the fact that it was found footage because you had to stay ground level.
What I think Cloverfield succeeded was because it followed up after 9/11. I think it was actually an expression that much like Godzilla was to the atomic bomb.
That's true.
So they're setting it in a setting that's more terrifying for us. It was like Godzilla was done originally for them.
What did you think of the? What did you think of Cloverfield and 10 Cloverfield Lane?
I enjoyed Cloverfield. I thought it was enjoyable, kind of forgettable.
Yeah.
Because the characters I didn't think were very strong, so there wasn't a lot to care about when you just had kind of doofuses running around with the camera.
It was my first exposure to camera. Yeah, it was my first exposure to T.J. Miller. That's why I always remember his character. Yeah.
But I didn't think they were very strong characters. They were just reactionary all the time. You didn't really have anything that built them as people.
That's true.
Which was the girl who was in it that I liked so much? Was it Lizzie Kaplan or was it
I don't know.
The one that exploded?
Maybe.
Honestly, that was great. I loved that
movie.
scene so much. I remember watching that military, like, would they, because it was such a long one shot, even though there were digital cuts, I'm sure. But it was, you were just so, your disbelief was so suspended at that point that you were with them, and then they whipped that camera around, and she just, oh man. That was a great moment in that movie.
I honestly like 10 Cloverfield better, and that was because I was more invested in the characters.
Right,
like
exactly.
you said, I felt like the interplay, John Goodman's performance, and I mean, even in that, we didn't get creatures till the very end because they reworked that film to be in the Cloverfield universe.
But by the time they did show up, you cared about her as a character.
You did. Oh yeah, Mary
Elizabeth Winstead.
Yeah, she was great in it. And I'm curious about this God particle, and now there's a rumor it's going to go direct to Netflix. And not even come out in April. That's the new rumor circulating today. As of this recording, we'll probably know by the time you guys hear this.
I think that's another.
It's been delayed like crazy. So
I think that's another strong ingredient for good horror is solid characters. It's so easy to do a throwaway, art type horror film, and they just are forgettable for the most part.
Yeah. When there's a body count, you care a lot more when you actually identify with the characters or sympathize or whatever. And so that's why Aliens succeeded so well compared to. Covenant sucked because I didn't give a crap about any of those people, personally.
Yeah. I'm there with you. I wasn't that impressed with Prometheus either. I didn't think the characters were that strong. But again, that's preference, I guess. I will agree Prometheus is a stronger film than Covenant, though.
Now, let's get into some of the other aspects of horror that you like. I mean, is there anything besides monsters? You said you're not a fan of ghosts. Like, what about your found footages, your torture porns, your...
Not big on torture porn. I don't think they're very strong story-wise for the most part. It's just extended people being in pain. I mean, it obviously has its audience. I'm not downplaying that, but it's just nothing that I've ever found appealing. Found footage can be good. I think there are some out there that
it's very hit and miss.
It is.
Yes.
It takes a lot of strength of the actors, I think. I think that's one of the major bits, and then getting over a lot of the tropes of why you're still carrying a camera around.
Yeah.
Well, and I think honestly, doing new things story-wise in the format has done really, done wonders for certain films. Evidence, where it's a mixture of, the cops trying to figure out what happened at the scene of this massacre, and they find a bunch of tapes, and so they're reviewing the tapes, and so you go into the found footage stuff, but you pull out for sections while the detectives are trying to figure out and piece together what happened. Another really great one was Infected, or what was that? Afflicted? I think it was Afflicted.
Was that the vampire one?
The vampire one,
You
yeah.
guys
That's,
I love that film.
that's great, right? So that's what I'm saying. It's unique stories, and that's why it's, I'm getting what you're saying. If there's really good story, really good characters, then the type of horror movie they're in doesn't necessarily matter.
Well, that's why Creep is so good. That's why The Bay was so good. I think found footage is less a subgenre of horror, but more so a framing device for different genres of horror. At least for me personally.
Absolutely, yeah. You can do lots of different stories with it. I think Afflicted and Creep are kind of polar opposites on found footage for horror, and both were incredible.
Yeah.
Creep 2 was really
And
good.
we're getting some sci-fi now with Project Almanac, and then the where they all got powers. The 3 kids got powers.
Oh,
Chronicles.
Love
Great,
Chronicle.
man. That was the movie Dane DeHaan. I was like, this kid can act, man. Like shit.
Yeah.
It's a fun method of immersion, And now I think you guys were kind of talking about this ahead of time with the VR experience playing Skyrim.
Yes.
Cecil has a 360 camera. We got a 360 camera. We've been thinking about what to do. And when you have a 360 camera, you can create a roller coaster for the audience. And be like, strap in, we're going to take you on a journey through this story. And you're going to be able to look around, look up and down, like the whole thing, through the whole story. So everything has to be immersive now. Like when you're going through a crowd of zombies, how cool is that going to be when you're fighting... Your 2 main characters are fighting back to back, and you can literally look all the way around and see. So, found footage is just like I said. I don't know. I think it's a fun way to immerse yourself in a film. Was Echo? I want to say Echo was very. No, it was not Echo. There was another alien.
Earth to Echo? Yeah, I think that's what it was.
Well, there was like a little. And the kids used their phones and their and stuff like that, and that was really cool. Project Almanac was all right. It's the time travel one.
Well, now there's something else though that I wanted to touch on. Now, okay, I'm trying to figure out what order we should do this in. Do you want to talk briefly about how Dicenstein came about, or what you might be working on next before?
I can do briefly just on both those.
Yeah.
I decided I wanted to make a board game, and
were you bored of all the other games?
I was bored in being an office drone, and kind of wanted to step out of that thing, and just kind of got to the point. I was like, is this what I want to keep doing, or do I want to do something that I actually care about? And I started working on board games, and oddly enough, my first pick was horror as well. And it was actually about a body snatch, and I was trying to figure out some sort of method that I could use because they were supposed to be terrible at it, right? They were supposed to eat people and try to blend in, but they were very, very bad at it. So I was trying to figure out a way to, arrange different types of body parts and, have a better chance to sneak in and grab some more folks. And when I was thinking about that, I started thinking about body parts and dice, and then that just kind of evolved to a collection of body parts and putting things together. And I was like, it's alive!
There you go. There you go.
And dude, something that was so fun about that game was the versatility of all the different pieces and different types of creatures and robots and all the stuff that you could... I mean, you can definitely Frankenstein some pretty fun stuff.
Well, I mean, yeah, the basic premise is... I don't know if we've really explained the basic premise. The basic premise is you kind of play Dr. Frankenstein or whoever, and you have a little Igor, your little meeple, that you send out to the graveyard to collect body parts, and then bring them back to your lab and do things to them in your lab.
And then, some of your friends are trying to do the
creatures.
same thing.
Yeah.
And you occasionally run up against one another, and you have to fight your creatures.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
And all the different pieces have different values. There's special attacks. So, yeah. But that's the basic premise: is you're sending your little Igor out to collect body parts for you, and I just think that's such a fun little horror.
And it plays different a lot of times too, just because of all the variations you have and what shows up on what dice, and just you get a lot of cool, fun combinations. I think.
Yeah, and we're also
You'll
talking
never play the same game twice.
An epic game because of the fact that this isn't like, oh, you're going to hang out and play it for an hour with your friends, and then you're like, what the hell else are we going to do the rest of the night while we're drinking beer? No, this will be like a good 3-4. I mean,
well, you can play multiple games.
Yeah, this actually takes place in about an hour.
Yeah. Does it really?
Yeah.
Because man, when
we were still learning,
that went on.
We were still learning.
We did the big
we were
how
being
to play, but
kind
the
of
actual
walked
game
through it.
It went on for a while because we explained all the directions first, and you actually had your play session, which lasted about
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And I think we played through twice, if I'm not mistaken. We might have, because it was a longer episode. But nonetheless, you don't mind playing through this a number of times in a row because every fight is different, and some people, if I recall, like I said, in our unboxing, I think the outcome was down to like the last turn or two. And I think you ended up winning, right?
I think it was you and me.
I can't remember how it went, but I think you ended up winning. But it was a lot of fun. So I'm curious. Are you? What are your plans as far as board games go now? Do you have other tabletop games in mind?
Yeah, I'm actually working on one right now. It's going to be a World War I horror game. I'm going to go for a pulpy feel for it, kind of like the Weird Wars sort of thing.
Okay.
But I think it should be interesting. I can't say a whole lot about it right now.
Okay.
But
all right.
Yeah, because I have questions. I'm like, is it going to be like alternate history kind of thing, or is it just going to inject horror in? But I guess you probably can't say. So.
Well, it's I'll give you that much. It's going to be more of an alternate history where both sides are injecting black magic into the battlefield.
Oh, cool.
And that's going to have other repercussions with just the effects of that spreading out with undead and time skipping, all sorts of just things going wrong with reality after.
Wow.
Well, and there was murmurings during both World Wars that there was some of that stuff going on. So that's cool.
Like I wanna pick your brain on how you even go about developing something like that. But I guess I'll wait until you're able to talk more about the game because it's like, man, I'm curious about that process. But so I mean, it makes sense though because there are a lot of horrific elements to war anyway. So I mean, are there? I thought it might be kind of fun to throw a question in since you can't really talk about it that much. Like, what do you guys think would be like really good blendings of like war and horror? Like, what fits like very well? Obviously, the black magic thing, sure. Let's not touch on that because we don't want to step on any toes or anything. But
if I was building a bigger game, what I would have done was a co-op game set in the trenches of World War I with something hunting people in the trenches.
Oh wow. Huh.
I'd actually like to make that game maybe next, depending on how this one does, but it would be a much larger project.
Really?
With miniatures and such like that, which takes a bigger budget.
Damn, that'd be cool though. So I don't know. What do you think, Dave?
Well, I think, let's see. Besides, what was that? Jim Caviezel movie, Outlander.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was kind of like a really good blending of like, you inject a dragon or a creature into medieval warfare, or like you have. I mean, I like that idea. If there's magic involved somehow, or there's like Captain America's the Hydra. There's circles within circles, right? Mm-hmm. So you might have the German government, but within the German government, there's another little circle of cultists, and they're doing horrible things with whatever ancient mysteries.
Wasn't Outlander just Beowulf?
Kind of, not really.
It kind of was.
It didn't have the human Grendel aspect,
right? But I think it was the monster was supposed to represent Grendel.
Yeah, it was very like that, it
followed a lot of the same beats. It seemed.
Yeah.
Although there was a sci-fi element, you said, right? Because he's like
it's from outer space.
Oh yeah,
traveler guy.
It's like Eaters of the Dead was Beowulf too.
I
mean, 13th Warriors.
Yeah. I still never saw 13th Warrior. I know they retitled it.
Yeah, 13th Warrior was good, actually. I remember liking that.
That was a Crichton, right?
Yeah, it was Michael Crichton.
It was actually somebody said, I bet you can't make a historical recreation of Beowulf. He's done.
He did, yeah, and I always loved Beowulf too. I actually liked that the animated one that came out. I thought that was badass.
Yeah. Okay, so two things, and then I was going to say the thing about horror that's scary is like the coming not like the action of the battles, but it's like coming back and being with your family, and then it's like that what I think could be the psychological horror of blending the genres.
So like a Jacob's
like
Ladder kind of thing?
It's like no, it's his enemies. The bad guys are still stalking him, even though he's home. They stalk him in his dreams now, And you could, take that real thing and then supernatural it a little bit, or give him a condition that makes it more real. So, it's kind of like The Shining, where he's going crazy.
I don't know why I'm thinking I'm going obviously crazy, bigger, weirder. Like they're not that they're occultists, but they're like they. I'm referring to they being the Nazis, right? Set it in World War II, and they are actually like evil beings from another dimension that are trying to infiltrate and take over. So like I don't know why my mind went to this. It was really dark, but I'm going to share it because it's a horror show. But
sure.
Like what if the gas chambers were actually, they would put the people in there and they would gas them, yes, but the gas wouldn't kill them. It would make them like sort of compliant, and then a wall would just like open up as like a giant maw, and they would just like walk in as the wall just chomps people.
They're feeding
the other dimensional monster. Exactly. And like they're literally
that's some Lovecraft shit.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. So it's yes, the gas chambers were horrible, but it's not. We didn't even know exactly how horrible it was, and like little twists like that.
Well, it's like what's the word I'm looking? Not personifying. It's almost like you take the actual horror of what happened in those gas chambers and you make it fictional so that it's. You can actually accept it and enjoy entertainment rather than.
I think that'd be hard so, man.
Yeah. What if Hitler's mustache like hit a seam in his face or something like that? Like that would.
What if Hitler's mustache was a parasite that had come from space?
I already thought about that, and I was like, "That's going to sound stupid."
I still think it's funny that one man is responsible for killing an entire hairstyle.
Yeah, for real. Yeah, and one that had been popularized by a pretty popular guy beforehand.
Dude, it'd been normal, but now,
nope. No one can pull it off. No one can say it's the Charlie Chaplin.
You can't bring it back.
Yeah. No, you can't. You can't say no. But there's a lot of. I mean, and then you get into more recent wars.
I would have to go Vietnam for mine, man, because of the fact that I love that little taste that the Oat Studio guy did with that. That was very inspiring for, I think, and also the short that we saw at the film festival where the guy was running through those trenches and he thought he was hearing like just Vietnamese spirits and demons and stuff down there, and I mean it was so beautifully shot, scary as hell, and it's one of the best I've seen short-wise in years.
I still like House for Vietnam horror.
Yeah, that's right. It's been a long time since I've seen that. Remind me, how did the story in that one go? Because it didn't. Yeah, go ahead. I remember that there was jungle aspects.
Yeah, there was, because it was a Vietnam vet that had lost his child and ended up losing his marriage because of that.
Norm was his neighbor. Norm from Cheers.
But it ended up being the house was haunted, but he finds out that it's actually one of his war buddies that had gone off the deep end over a tour that had been the reason why the house is haunted, and it's his spirit following him, and it ended up being who had taken his child originally too.
Oh, that's right.
But there were just a lot of great visuals for the Vietnam bit, and Big Ben's it was Bull from Night Court was the.
Oh, that's right.
The spirit, and they had a great makeup job on him. It was good stuff.
Oh man, so that's what, and the Vietnam thing made me think too. Like, what if there was like a relic like creature loose in the jungles of Vietnam?
That'd
doing
that. Disturb some temple or sacred ground. You could always do.
Did you like the Relic movie?
I did. I liked the book better, but the book wasn't better.
Yeah. I wasn't a big fan of Reliquary, the book.
No, neither was I.
Yeah, Relic was way better. I don't like the whole junky aspect of it. Give me creatures. Give me a subway full of homeless people, not garbage.
He was selling it to finance it. That's why he turned them all into mini creatures.
Yeah. Well, they weren't even mini creatures, though. Like, they weren't even cool enough to be.
What I liked about the sequel was that it was a scientist who saw what this ancient method of turning someone into a creature to smite your enemies, right? Literally, you'd give them this drink with the plant in it, and they would turn into this giant creature. And so I just liked that aspect that the science, after they killed the creatures, the scientist is like, well, I'm going to turn this into something. I'm going to get myself out of this wheelchair. And if I have to turn a bunch of people into junkies to do it, then that's what I'm going to do. And then they turn into like mini versions of the creatures. And yeah, he cures himself. So it's very like old school. I don't know, kind of like the old school scientist. I don't know. All their books are kind of like that.
Well, creatures fit.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing. Like you got to say, you can take almost any story and plop a creature in and make it a good horror story.
Better. You take any story, add a creature, and it's better.
Yeah. One of these days, Tom, I'll have to tell you, I actually have an sort of Avengers-like idea for a creatureverse, a movie creatureverse that is basically, it would be separate installments that are a different sort of creature is the big bad, but the underlying thing that's slowly revealed is that there's a evil organization that's breeding these things and accidentally letting them or purposefully letting them loose in different environments, and then in one of them the survivors of all the different creature films will come together to sort of take it down in a later film, something.
So
like
the last
that.
girls come together.
Yeah,
that sounds cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
So,
and some cabin in the woods aspects too.
yeah,
bit.
exactly.
Yeah.
Have I not told you about that?
I think you explained it at one point.
So yeah, I mean that I think there's such an opportunity for that because people love creature movies, especially when they're done well.
I do.
Yeah, we just don't get many of them, man. I mean, we don't get many good ones. I'll say. I think the last good one I saw was probably Life.
I think
Life.
Life was great.
So much better than Covenant.
I thought Calvin was a great new addition to the creature.
I agree. Yeah. I mean, Life was definitely just Gravity mixed with Alien, but it was really successful. Really successful.
Well, I also like the fact that they took that cast and killed them all. As far as the budget to bring those characters in and just nope.
Yep.
That was
Exactly.
It was a bold
Yeah,
move.
with a good, satisfying ending too. Like it was a good bold ending, like we were talking about.
Left room open for a sequel, that's for sure. Although since it underperformed at the box office, we're probably not going to get it. It kind of sucks. So.
But yeah, I mean that's so. I guess this really turned into more of a creature bonding session. But
Well, okay. Let me
wheelhouse,
since
man.
we talked about Michael Crichton, let me just bring this up because I just read that micro book. So he did Prey, which was all about nanobots, but now his last book that he died while he was writing it is Micro, where they go into the microverse. So you'd be, if you take your pinky and lay it sideways, that's about how tall you'd be, and everything turns into a creature. A worm is a giant 30-foot long creature. A spider, daddy longlegs, is 15 feet tall. Like all of the bugs that are in the ground that you can't see now, they're all moving and writhing around. And I just think that would make a great, I don't know, because it turns everything into a creature.
that's true.
Because you don't really think about it that much.
That would be pretty disturbing.
No, it's much the same about the ocean. If fish could scream, all you would hear is yelling.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, especially as often as they're being chased by bigger things with teeth. Shit. All right, guys. Well, I think that's a good little welcome podcast to Tom. I think now that I know you're not terribly far, if you ever want to come back down and contribute some more, you'd be more than welcome, man. So. Thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah,
it
if
was
you
a
were
pleasure.
farther though. Yeah.
Not if you were
Really
farther.
forget it.
You guys want me back on? I'd be happy to. It was fun.
Oh, yeah, man.
Cool. All right. Well, maybe we'll try and have you on for the game too. We'll see if we can work that out. So, all right.
We'll get our asses kicked.
Probably.
Yeah, probably. But that's gonna do it for this week's podcast, you guys. Thanks very much for listening. I've been Cecil Laird.
Gracias, Abenjamin en Fuego.
Tom McGinty.
And producer Dave.
And remember,
Stay
scared.
Shit.
Chip.